Picture this: Paris, early 1800s. The city is a maze of dark alleys, teeming with criminals, and the police are utterly overwhelmed. They wear uniforms, making them easy to spot, and they rely on confessions rather than evidence. Crime runs rampant because the underworld operates by its own rules, a world completely invisible to the authorities. But all of that is about to change, thanks to one of the most unlikely heroes in history, a criminal. This is the story of Eugène François Vidocq, the thief who became the world's first modern detective and laid the groundwork for agencies like the FBI and Scotland Yard. His life was so wild, it reads like a novel. In fact, it inspired some of literature's greatest characters, from Sherlock Holmes to Jean Valjean. So, how did a wanted man, a master of disguise, and a career outlaw, end up creating the very foundations of modern law enforcement? Let's find out. Born in 1775, Vidocq wasn't just a bad boy. He was a catastrophe from the start. The son of a baker, he was known for his towering height, immense strength, and a rebellious streak a mile wide. By his teenage years, he was already a skilled fencer, a womanizer, and a petty thief. He even stole his own family's silver. His early life was a whirlwind of duels, desertions from the army, short-lived careers in puppet shows, and, of course, crime. He spent years in and out of prison, a cycle of daring escapes and inevitable He was branded, sentenced to hard labor, and became one of France's most wanted men. But here's what made Vidocq different. During his years on the run and in prison, he didn't just learn how to be a better criminal. He learned how criminals think. He memorized their faces, their slang, their methods, and their networks. The criminal underworld wasn't just a place he visited, it was his home. He knew its secrets inside and out. And after years of living this life, he got tired. Tired of running, tired of the constant threat of capture. So, in 1809, he made a decision that would alter the course of history. He walked into the office of the Paris police and made them an offer they couldn't refuse. He proposed to become a spy, an informant. He would use his unparalleled knowledge of the criminal class to help the police catch them. The authorities were skeptical, to say the least. Why trust a notorious con man? But they were also desperate, so they gave him a chance. Working from a prison cell, Vidocq started feeding them information. He identified fellow inmates, exposed planned crimes, and unraveled criminal conspiracies from the inside. His intelligence was so accurate, so effective, that the police realized they had a weapon unlike any other. After proving his value, Vidocq was secretly released. But he didn't just walk away, he doubled down. He proposed an even more radical idea, a new kind of police force, a plainclothes unit, made up of men who could move through the city undetected, who could blend in with the criminals they were hunting. In 1812, with the blessing of the authorities, Vidocq founded the Brigade de la Sécurité, or the Security Brigade. This wasn't just a new police squad, it was the birth of the modern detective agency. The Sécurité Nationale was born. Vidocq's methods were revolutionary. Before him, police work was reactive. A crime happened, and the police would round up the usual suspects. Vidocq made it proactive. He and his agents, many of whom were ex-criminals just like him, would go undercover. They disguised themselves as beggars, merchants, sailors, you name it. They infiltrated gangs, listened to whispers in taverns, and gathered intelligence before crimes could even happen. Vidocq himself was a master of disguise, using costumes and makeup to transform his appearance so completely that he could fool his own mother. He wasn't just playing dress-up though. He was applying science and methodology to a field that had none. Think about the crime scene investigation you see in shows today. Vidocq was pioneering the real-life versions of those techniques 200 years ago. He is credited with being one of the first to use ballistics, by comparing a bullet removed from a victim to the mold used to make it. He understood the importance of physical evidence, creating plaster casts of shoe prints left at crime scenes, a technique still fundamental to forensics. Perhaps his most significant innovation was record-keeping. Vidocq understood that knowledge was power. He began creating detailed files on every known criminal in Paris. These weren't just names. They were comprehensive dossiers with physical descriptions, aliases, past crimes, known associates, and their modus operandi, their specific way of committing a crime. He created the world's first massive criminal database. By cross-referencing these cards, he could spot patterns and link suspects to crimes with astonishing accuracy. If a burglar always entered through a second-story window, Vidocq would check his files for criminals with that signature move. This systematic approach was unheard of at the time. It was the birth of criminology. The results were staggering. In its first year, Vidocq's Sûreté, a tiny team of just a dozen men, arrested over 800 criminals, including murderers, thieves, and counterfeiters. The crime rate in Paris plummeted. Vidocq became a living legend. He was the boogeyman to the underworld and a folk hero to the public. He had successfully turned his dark past into his greatest asset. He knew how to catch a thief because he had been one. He knew how to think 2 steps ahead of them because he had lived that life. His influence didn't stop at the borders of France. Police forces across Europe and America began studying his methods. The concept of a plainclothes detective, the use of informants, the meticulous collection of evidence, and the maintenance of criminal records, all these cornerstones of modern policing can be traced back to Vidocq. When London established Scotland Yard in 1829, they modeled their detective branch directly on Vidocq's Sûreté. The FBI's massive databases of fingerprints and criminal profiles are the direct descendants of Vidocq's simple index cards. His life was also a goldmine for writers. Victor Hugo, who knew Vidocq personally, was fascinated by his story of crime and redemption. He based both the reformed convict, Jean Valjean, and the relentless police inspector Javert, in Les Miserables on different aspects of Vidocq's life. Edgar Allan Poe, the father of the detective fiction genre, created his brilliant detective C. Auguste Dupin after reading about Vidocq's exploits. And of course, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes, with his mastery of disguise, logical deduction, and encyclopedic knowledge of crime, owes a huge debt to the real-life French detective. Vidocq's career with the Sûreté wasn't without controversy. He was eventually forced to resign, partly due to jealousy from a police establishment that never fully trusted the ex-con in their midst. But he didn't just fade away. He opened the world's first private detective agency, continuing his work and cementing his legacy. He wrote his memoirs, which became an international bestseller, further spreading his fame and his methods. So the next time you watch a detective show and see an investigator analyzing a footprint, going undercover, or pulling up a suspect's file on a computer, remember where it all started. It didn't begin in a high-tech lab or a modern police academy. It began in the mind of a French criminal, a man who navigated the darkest corners of society and used that knowledge to build a safer world. Eugène François Vidocq proved that sometimes the most revolutionary ideas come from the most unexpected places. He was the thief who became the chief, the poacher turned gamekeeper, and the man who single-handedly invented the art of the detective. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this piece of untold history as fascinating as we did, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. And don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss an update. We'll see you in the next video.